Welcome to our list of the most shocking events that could have ended the world. The final few will leave you feeling grateful to be alive. Number 1. Chernobyl. In 1986, a reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine exploded, igniting one of the reactor's cores. Unprecedented amounts of airborne radioactive contaminants were released and deposited across Europe during what became the worst nuclear disaster in history. The USSR and Eastern Europe were hit by dangerous levels of radiation. It is unknown how many people have died due to the Chernobyl disaster. However, if it wasn't for the quick thinking of the response team, it is likely that the number would have been much greater. Number 2. 4581 ASCLEPIUS. In 1989, an asteroid passed by Earth that would have caused damage equivalent to a 600 megaton atom bomb if it had struck the Earth.
That's one Hiroshima-type blast every second for 50 days.
The asteroid missed Earth by a scarily small margin when you consider the size of space, and it wasn't even discovered until just over a week after it passed Earth, meaning that we were unprepared for the asteroid's arrival.
1989, we escaped this grisly fate by 6 hours, spinning through the desolate vacuum of space, bigger than an aircraft carrier, and closing at 46,000 miles an hour.
Number 3. The Chixculub impact. 66 million years ago, a giant asteroid crashed into Earth in what is now Mexico. The Chixculub impactor, as it is now known, was the size of a large city in diameter, a created crater over 100 miles wide. The impact is widely accepted to have caused the extinction of 75% of the plant and animal species on Earth, including the dinosaurs. The impact had a force of 900 billion atomic bombs. The Earth's climate dramatically shifted, and light became limited for an era.
The plants, starved of sunlight, would have died. The largest animals ran out of food remarkably quickly. The creatures that scavenged them, eventually, they had nothing to feed on either.
90 minutes after impact, the temperature on the ground in Mongolia peaks at 150 degrees Celsius.
Number 4. Comet HYAKUTAKE. One of the closest comet misses to Earth in hundreds of years, the world held its breath when this 2.5-mile wide comet shot past Earth in 1996.
Roughly 18,000 years, this week a speeding, luminous comet promises to light up the northern sky again.
The comet was seen with the naked eye just a couple of months after it was discovered. If the comet had hit, it is likely to have caused an extinction-level event on Earth. Thankfully, it passed us by without causing any problems. Scientists say that we will never see the comet again. Number 5. The Krakatoa explosion. In 1883, the volcano Krakatoa erupted off the coast of Indonesia. The eruption caused a huge amount of ash to be spread across the globe, seriously affecting the climate and weather. It also caused a pressure wave and tsunami to be released that caused devastation around the region. It stands as one of the deadliest in recorded history, resulting in the deaths of approximately 35,000 people. The eruption was so badly damaging to human life, many fear that a supervolcano in the future may lead to the end of humankind. Number 6. The Soviet nuclear false alarm incident. In September of 1983, the nuclear early warning system of the Soviet Union was activated.
The siren sounded very loudly, and I just sat there for a few seconds, staring at the screen with the word "launch" displayed in bold red letters.
Soviet defense system told Stanislav Petrov that the US had launched 5 nuclear missiles at the Soviet Union. Instead of relaying the news up to the chain of command instantly, Stanislav waited for the launch to be confirmed. It was soon realized to be a false alarm. If Stanislav had immediately sent the news up the chain of command, it is likely that the USSR would have retaliated immediately, causing an all-out nuclear war. Thanks to the cool nerves of one man, the end of the world was prevented that day. Number 7. Solar flare in 2012. In 2012, the Sun experienced its most powerful solar storm in over 100 years. A giant coronal mass ejection shot out from the Sun. The beam of magnetized plasma was fired into the Earth's orbit just a week before Earth passed through the same area. The solar storm would have caused massive devastation and disruption to the Earth's electric grids. And at a minimum, mass blackout fires would have caused thousands of deaths across Earth. Thankfully, we'll never know the extent of the damage that would have occurred.
It can affect satellites and power grids.
Number 8. The BONILLA Comet 1883. In 1883, Mexican astronomer Jose Bonilla noticed hundreds of dark objects flying in front of the sun. At the time, many thought that he had just seen birds. More recently, however, scientists think it was more likely thousands of comet fragments passing by Earth. Some of these fragments came within just 400 miles of Earth. If they had hit us, scientists predict that it could have caused an extinction-level event and possibly the end of the human race. Number 9. The Windscale Fire. While most of you will have heard of the disaster at Chernobyl, not many will know about the 1957 Windscale fire that broke out at the Windscale nuclear reactor site in Cumbria, England. The disaster released huge amounts of radioactive fallout in the atmosphere, burned for 3 days straight, and cancer-causing iodine-131 was spread across the UK. Thankfully, the fire was put out before the radiation could cause a global threat. It is unknown how many deaths were caused by the disaster, and the UK government downplayed the damage caused.
There was a high reading. The meter reading went up to the top, and this was quite alarming, and we came back into the house.
Number 10. The Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis is the closest the world has ever come to nuclear Armageddon. Tensions between the United States of America and the Soviet Union had been steadily rising since the Soviets had stationed nuclear missile facilities on Cuban soil in 1962.
This photo proved beyond doubt that the Soviets were building nuclear missile sites in Cuba.
In order to prevent more weapons arriving in Cuba from the USSR, the USA formed a naval blockade around the island.
A Soviet-chartered vessel, the Marukla, is stopped, boarded, and inspected, then cleared to proceed to Cuba.
October 27, 1962, tensions reached their peak when a Soviet submarine came threateningly close to the blockade line. U.S. troops dropped small-depth charges at the submarine as a threat, not knowing that it was armed with nuclear torpedoes. The submarine was so deep that the crew couldn't receive radio traffic and thought that a war had broken out above them already. The captain wanted to fire a nuclear torpedo at the U.S., but the order was rejected by another officer on board, Vasily Arkhipov. The launch and potentially nuclear Armageddon was prevented that day by the decision of one man. To this day, the Cuban Missile Crisis is surely the closest to the human race has ever come to extinction. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments what you think should have made the list. Thanks for watching part 2 of the events that could have ended the world. Be sure to subscribe for more.